this, but just a little reminder that the registration deadline for the conference, our conference, which is going to be September 16th, is July 30th. So that's Thursday. So if you could just click the link and I'll drop it in the chat as well. And then just make sure your name's on there and a couple of different information that we need from you. So we hope to see you there.
And
If you
again,
want
that
to
is for free
yeah.
registration. It's normally $135 and it's going up after this week to 155. So please register. We're going to have you a free ticket. We're going to save a little reserved table for you at the front and give you recognition during lunch. So please be there to get a little bit of recognition. And you'll also get a chance to kind of be together a little bit. We'll have a special table for you guys. So
Yeah. So we hope to
have
see you
a,
guys there. And if you have
I
any
have a,
questions, oh, go
I
ahead.
do have a quick question about the fundraising, because I have somebody that wants to contribute, but they probably won't be contributing until next month.
Mhm.
Um, so is this um, like do we have up until a certain point to like get the fundraising done before the conference?
Yeah, that's totally fine. So, I sent out an email and I know it was kind of confusing. So the platform that we were using, Scale Funder, we no longer have access to it. So we've moved to just our website, and then in the box they can just put your name in honor of, or like it says something like that. So you can just put they can put your name in it, and then we'll just when we see the report, we'll see that your name's attached to it. So that's totally fine. You can still fundraise. There's not a specific time that like you need to do it by then, but totally feel free to send out that link, and I can send you the link as well, another um, the direct link to it. Um, yeah, so these are some of our top fundraisers. Just want to give you guys like a big round of applause. Thank you so much for all of your fundraising efforts. I know a lot of you guys have been putting in a lot of work, and like this is just through our Scale Funder, because I know a lot of people did some donations to different organizations, maybe to their local council. So this is just the donors, the fundraisers that I have access to, but all of you did such a good job with fundraising, and we really appreciate all of your effort and hard work.
And I just want to say, even if you're not up there, even if you reached out to someone and shared what we did and invited them to invest as well, that is also a big part of it and just spreading awareness. So even if you made that ask and did that step, we greatly appreciate it. Sometimes you put so much into it and it doesn't always look the same on the end, but we really appreciate all of you doing that.
Yeah. And then lastly, just if you guys have any awareness events or volunteer events you want to talk about that you've done, or you're looking forward to doing, now's just your time to share a little bit about that if you would like to.
Yes, I wanted to go ahead and share that I will actually be doing an awareness event at my daughter's school. They're going to have the back to school. They call it the sneak a peek. So I'm pretty involved at the school already. So I've gotten the go ahead from the principal to be able to set up a table there to just kind of bring some light to PCA and what we do and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about that, and I'll definitely hopefully take some pictures and send it to you guys. But I'm excited.
That's so awesome. Thanks so much for sharing about that. Yeah, we would love to see pictures. Um, and if you need anything, I'm not sure when the event is. I can send some stuff if I haven't already to you. Um, I'll be in the office tomorrow, so if you let me know, then I'll be happy to help you get those things.
Yeah, I can let you know at the end what I've already received, because I did already receive some stuff from you. So I'll just let you know what I have.
Okay, no problem.
And I want to give a big shout out to Candace. She completed her Triple P facilitator training. Triple P is an evidence-based parent education program that she reached out to us wanting just to do a lot more and be involved in different ways. And so we were able to kind of help her do that. And she completed it, which is a big task to do. So she's going to be delivering some evidence-based parent education to her community, kind of on our behalf or in partnership. So we're really grateful that you're able to step in that way in your community, Candace. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a big certification to pass. It is a huge training, so kudos to you.
Yes, it was very, very long. The first part was 2 days and it was an all-day thing. And oddly enough, that was actually my cousin passed at the beginning of April. And so it was kind of hard to like try to get it moved around. So like I was just juggling all of that, but it was really good. The host, she was so dope. And then we had one for the teen extension. So I'll be able to do 0 through 12 and the teenagers. So I mean it's amazing content, you guys. So if you get the opportunity, definitely try it out.
That's awesome, Candace. That's really great. And Triple P stuff is, whenever anyone talks about the training, I'm like, wow, that is a lot. So kudos to you for even going through the training and getting through all of that. If anybody else has anything they want to share, if not, we can dive into the hope thing. Oh, Catherine.
Right. It's me. I'll share. I feel like I overshare, but um, I during the before the summer, I was packing buddy packs with Feeding the Valley. And those buddy packs are for the youth to make sure that they have food for over the weekend. And so that was pretty cool. And so one of the organizations that I'm a part of, we're actually doing a dollar day drive where for every dollar donated is 6 meals for the children, and our donations will go directly to the buddy packs. So we are designating our funds to the buddy pack so we can ensure that children have meals over the weekend. So I'm super excited to be a part of that. We're going to be running that fundraiser from August 1st to August. I have to count to see if it's 31 or 30 days, but we're going to be running that fundraiser for the month of August. And we're just hoping that people will, join up and be a part of it. So ideally, we want to raise $1,930, and that will cover 11,580 meals for youth in our area. So that's our goal. Hopefully, we can raise more than that, but we're pushing towards that $1,000 goal.
And Catherine, thank you so much for sharing. If you had that link to donate when it comes time, please put it in Basecamp or feel free to reply all to one of the reminders. So anyone who wants to also support you or just learn more about it can do that.
Fantastic. I sure will. Thank you guys.
Mhm.
Thanks for sharing, guys. I'll let you take over, Jill.
Yeah. Let me see. There's the share. It always moves. And we're gonna be talking about hope, and we have a new drop that I have up on my screen that I'm gonna go over afterwards. Um, Brittany, our other communications person, Hannah, and I have been working a lot this summer on getting a toolkit, a messaging toolkit out for HOPE, which is healthy outcomes from positive experiences. And that is really looking at just the research impact of positive childhood experiences and the framework that kind of goes in tandem with it. So we know that these are good for us. So how can we do a more intentional job of embedding them in our work, in our communities, in our own family? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'll do a quick preview at the end of the Hope Toolkit, and we'll get it to you a hair early. I'm going to go ahead and get you guys the social media today because I just finished it up today. So if you see any typos, let me know. But we'll be getting that out to everyone else probably in the next 2 weeks. We have a couple more pieces like videos, talking points, and a website coming as well for that. Okay, I'm going to skip that video. I think we've talked a lot in this group about adverse childhood experiences, and I know a lot of you all, and especially those you joining us today, have some background knowledge or have attended a lot of our sessions and have heard about adverse childhood experiences. So the biggest point is that they are very common. About 64% of Americans have experienced at least one ACE. and that these ACEs like abuse, neglect, household stress are linked to negative health and kind of just other social factors in adulthood. But we know that is not the whole story. For so long, a lot of our field in child well-being has really been focused on ACEs, which is really a negative take on it, right? Just by focusing on the problem that doesn't always give us the solution or what we should be moving towards. So again, as I said, they're common. ACEs negatively affect health, and they can also change even the lifespan, just not only the quality, but the kind of the quantity of years as well. But it doesn't have to be that way. So the ACEs study has a lot of limitations because it really only looked at those negative experiences, as I mentioned. It doesn't take into account many of the other things that people have going on in their lives that act as buffers or strengtheners as well. So that's not the only important experience in childhood. So we can think about, imagine there's a 14-year-old girl who's witnessed conflict in her home, maybe verbal abuse at the home. Her parents are now divorced. You can expect maybe certain things out of there just based on an ACE score alone. These might have different exceptions or other things with it, but what if we then learn that she lives near a grandma or a grandpa who is very active in her life, that she attends church or a faith-based community that she participates in, she likes going to school, has a good group of friends there, and even does some extracurriculars. So there's many more things that we need to factor in other than just those negative risk factors that we see going on. And just the point is that we need to learn about the whole person, and that includes all of the positive aspects and experiences and strengths from communities and individuals as well. And those really help to buffer the bad things going on or sometimes even prevent them. And there's a lot of research. So that in and of itself, it isn't rocket scientist that if you have good things in your life, it really helps your trajectory. But the science is growing, and it is even more than I thought when I was just looking into this or hearing this. Some of you guys have seen this image from other trainings, but if you want to put in the chat, what are some of the first things you see when you're looking at this image?
This is very overstimulating for me. Um, there's a lot of stuff like happening. There's holes in the wall. There's stuff all over the floor. Open food. It looks like everybody is kind of like doing their own thing. Yeah, I'm overstimulated just looking at this picture.
I love that, Candace. A lot of people come in and say other things, but you had just like a personal reaction, right? This is overstimulating for you, and it could be for many people too. I'm seeing in the chat box clutter. There is a lot going on. A lot of people, when they see this, it's the clutter, the chaos, that mom is kind of not paying attention, that there are cigarettes, even disruptive, holes in the wall, bugs, different things like that. However, when we look again, or when we call people to see the positives first in here, sometimes we have to even ask, what are those positive things? We've mentioned a lot of other things. So what are those strength things that we're now seeing? Our brains are so trained to sometimes see the threats or the negative first, that we kind of miss a lot of the other things going on. So what are some of those positive things or strengths in here that we see?
Oh, sorry. There are toys for the kids. There are somewhere for them to sleep. There is food, even though that's stressful. Like Candace was saying, there's a television. There's a bathroom with cleaning products. So they have a lot of the items that they need to be in a household, I guess. There's something that shows that they have faith or some type of faith base.
Yeah. So you hit on a lot of great things. I'm also seeing some similar things in the chat. They have furniture, siblings, faith, toys, food. They're all in the same room and the children are safe, right? So she's keeping an eye on them. Maybe they have to all kind of do their thing or take naps in there. We know there's electricity. We know that there's cleaning. It looks like maybe not the best choice, but age-appropriate toys, age-appropriate sleeping, that it is safe, that it is not on different things, that it is within supervision. So we see a lot of things going on here. We even see the coat of what looks like an adult guy on the side. So maybe there is another caregiver or someone in their lives as well in there. So despite some of the chaos, there's lots of good things. And with 4 children and 2 animals, I wouldn't expect it to not feel chaotic in this home at any different time, or, just give them 10 minutes and it can probably go to that pretty quickly. But to see some of those strengths in here too. And when we're seeing families kind of solely through that ACEs or risk lens, we miss those strengths. And the strengths are what we can use to help families navigate challenges and really build on as well. We're often better able to change behavior by building on those strengths and creating positive childhood experiences rather than only addressing the risk factors. And change is also easier when families aren't feeling judged, and when we are not judging ourselves, when we're trying to come in and reprogram even ourselves to see it in a different way. It doesn't mean we're ignoring threats or other things, but we're putting it in balance with the bigger picture of what we have all going on. And these are called kind of type 1 versus type 2 thinking, when we think of kind of those biases or why we see threats first or other things like that. Most people's brain is just wired to default to the negative, and that's called type 1 thinking. It is fast, it is intuitive, it is unconscious, and it can be based on training or even experience. And so you think of when you're driving home from work, something that you do every day or most days, your brain kind of goes on autopilot. And sometimes you get home without even realizing kind of all the steps are like, what kind of happened? But when there's a detour, and you have to take a minute to think about, okay, I have to change. What's the best way to get home? And you have to pay attention to the turns. That is type 2 thinking. Type 2 is a little bit slower, more calculating, conscious thought, and involves new concepts or ways of thinking. And your brain is often trying to figure out that route, and it slows down to solve that problem a little bit. Type 1 thinking, it is very natural, and it helps us process so much information every day. We don't have the time to go type 2 thinking for everything throughout our day. So it helps us process a lot of information, but we just want to recognize that it can be laden with implicit biases when it comes to families. So not only what we're seeing, but our response when we're seeing it. If we're making a report versus supporting, or our ability to support versus judge and things like that. So we just want to recognize that when we are approaching families, that can be very biased. And so just like a muscle, working on taking that type 2 thinking, which is a little bit slower, looking for some of the strengths, looking for the whole picture in our approach to working with families, to start with those strengths as well. Not to not see the risks, but to take a minute to slow down before we snap into judgment or make that quick decision as we're processing information. And hope the framework and some of these PCEs really does try to help shift that narrative so that people are defined by those strengths as well as the challenges that they face. So flipping that narrative, we're going to talk now about the positive childhood experiences, some of the research behind it, and then the framework that helps bolster that. So just as early adversity in ACEs was researched by a set of, I think, 10, 11 questions, although we know ACEs can be many things, positive childhood experiences in research, they use the 7-question scale. And these aren't fancy things like going on vacations or Disney World or playing travel ball or kind of big things like that. These are kind of everyday, the sense of security, safety, belonging. And so these are the 7 questions that in research, the positive childhood experiences scale asks. So when I talk about the research, this is what they're looking at specifically. They asked a child, or in childhood, how often did someone feel able to talk to your family about feelings, feel your family stood by you during difficult times, enjoy participating in community traditions, felt a sense of belonging in high school, felt supported by friends, had at least 2 non-parent adults who took a genuine interest in you, and felt safe and protected by an adult in your home. So those are the 7 questions that all of this research about positive childhood experiences looks at specifically. And just as ACEs aren't limited to those kind of 10 things in the scale, positive childhood experiences aren't just tied to those 7 things. There are many other things that can be considered a positive childhood experience. And I also want to point out that some of these occur inside and outside the home. And community experiences also play an impactful role in the life of a child. We talked about community traditions, school, but other groups that they might be involved in or community conditions that they might be subjected to can also help or lead to some of those things. So I want you to think about a positive experience from your childhood or an experience that you have given to a child. And if anyone wants to share those or just reflect on yourself, thinking of a positive childhood experience that you yourself has been impactful for you or that you have given to a child.
I like to share. I mean, y'all know I love to share. But my nephews, um, my sister's kids don't particularly have the best of circumstances. So I pretty much every opportunity I get to where I can get them and like, take them skating or go to the pool, or we may go out and grab something to eat. I usually try to do my best to just kind of do something like that. And recently I did that yesterday with my daughter and one of my nephew, which is one of my sister's kids. So I pretty much just, you know, as it relates to them, like I just try to give them as many childhood like, I guess, fun experiences that I can, because they don't particularly have access due to their mom's financial circumstances.
Awesome. What a gift to have family close by that you can be in each other's lives in that way. And it's probably just more the time together and the excitement to be together.
I'll share. I just got a text message from a student. I used to teach fifth grade at a Christian academy, and this was back in 1987. And I just got a text message from one of my students who, saw me. I don't know what platform she saw me on, and she's like, "Are you still teaching?" And she was just, telling me how what a big impact I had on her life, and it just brought me to tears because you just never know, what's going on. But she's what 40 something years old now, and so we're gonna get together and see some try to figure out something. But a friend of mine just died this morning, and I talked to the pastor of the church, and he said, "Do you remember your fifth grade class?" So one of my other students who was in the same class as Trevette, he said, Antonia's daddy died, and his funeral is Saturday. It's Thursday. This coming Thursday. And I said, I just talked to Trevette, and so that's two of my students that they wanted to get the message to me about whatever. So you just never know. I didn't know what impact I had, so I can't say exactly what it is that I did, but it just feels good to know that you had a positive impact on somebody's life. So
And for even that long ago that they're still carrying that with them, that is super impactful. Sorry for your loss, but thank you so much for sharing those moments. And I think it makes them even more valuable when all the circumstances kind of blend together.
mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think about my best friend's mom. I was over a lot and they had the best snack drawer. And always running to their snack drawer to see if they had frosted animal crackers and other things. And she let us plan a lot and lead a lot. And so growing through that, and they were a family that could be loud and joke with each other. And my family wasn't. So to see the different communication styles and to feel kind of safe to just be more outgoing and out there was always a great safe feeling. So they're always who I think of when I think of those positive childhood experiences, and it's someone who's consistently in your life, even just for the frosted animal crackers that you can depend on for those. And, it just makes a huge difference in the life of a children, those small things, big things, that people know and care about you. Thank you all for sharing. And so looking at some of the research, we're going to go through a fair amount of that. The results are really astonishing here. So this is from a study, I think, of about 7,000 people in Wisconsin. So they found that positive childhood experiences protect future adult mental health in a dose-dependent way. And that means the more childhood experiences someone has, the more likely they are to report good mental health as an adult. So in the group of people who reported 0 to 2 positive childhood experiences, that group reported 51% of them reported they had good mental health as adults. Now, compare that to people who reported 6 to 7, and that's the high end of the scale, positive childhood experiences. 87% of them reported having good mental health as adults. That's significant. And what is really important there as well is this holds true even among adults who have experienced significant adversity. So this is the chart again, only in people who have experienced 4 or more ACEs. And 4 or more ACEs is kind of a threshold where the negative impacts are a lot more than in those with less than 4 ACEs. And so we see the same effect here. Those who have reported more positive childhood experiences are still reporting about 80% good mental health, compared to those who did not have any or very few, about 39% good mental health. So that is significant, even in the face of adversity and significant adversity. This fact holds true that protective factors protect adult mental health. And so many studies, that was kind of one of the initial studies, but many studies have been done since then, is even growing. Even in the last couple of years, there have been a lot. This is kind of the buzz going on. So positive childhood experiences are not only associated with good mental health, but overall health and well-being across the lifespan. We see the benefits of PCEs even starting in youth and early youth. A longitudinal study, so they're following kids over a long time. It followed 5,000 children from birth through adolescence, and they found that more PCEs were correlated with improved mental health and better academic skills in adolescence. And that sets up a whole trajectory if you have those better academic skills in adolescence. And so here I'm going to paraphrase a couple other things. A 2023 study showed that PCEs were able to increase child flourishing. Isn't that a beautiful term, child flourishing? And in the study, that was defined as showing an interest and curiosity in learning new things, working to finish tasks they started, staying calm and in control when faced with a challenge. Those are all amazingly important things for kids to learn and grow before they reach adulthood. And that study was done with over 40,000 children. That is a huge study. So we can really say these findings, we can apply them to the broader population. That is a huge study. And that one's pretty recent from 2023. A 2025 study found PCEs were associated with better cognition in early adolescence. And that was a study of almost 5,000 or almost 6,000 kids. A 2024 study found that PCEs reduced the odds of anxiety, depression, aggression, and attention problems in preteens experiencing discrimination. In preteens experiencing discrimination, they reduced the odds of anxiety, depression, aggression. That is huge for teens going through an additional layer to have this still have the ability to protect their mental health, especially as suicide rates and other things are on the rise. Okay, and go into my next one. So some more research studies. A 2023 study found youth with more PCEs had a lower odd of perpetrating bullying or being bullied. So it lowered the odds of being a bully or being bullied. And I find that interesting that it's both. I love that. And that study had 44,000 kids in it. A 2023 study found that youth with more PCEs had lower odds of recidivism after childhood criminal offenses, so lower odds of repeating offenses after they had already had some. A 2025 study showed the odds of delinquency in high schoolers were 14% lower for every point increase in PCE. So as their PCE score went up, it continued to lower the odds of delinquency in high schoolers. And then one study, even among fifth graders who are reporting PCEs, so fifth graders with more PCEs had fewer internalizing, externalizing, and social problems. And that was among students who had participated in Head Start, which is kind of a protective factor anyways, but they still found even within that group that it really reduced the odds of any type of social problems, even as early as fifth grade. And I'm sure you can see those things earlier on. They're a little bit harder to study earlier on, but that is really promising when we see those things at such a young age. And so now looking at the impact on PCEs on adults. They're shown to be associated with higher household incomes, academic success, having a college degree, being employed. And we know a lot of those things are kind of tangled into each other. And that's no surprise kind of hearing early on that people did better at school, lowering delinquency, better mental health, that it kind of also translates into these things as adulthood. Adults who reported more PCEs also reported better physical and mental health. And having more PCEs have significantly been linked to lower rates of heart disease and depression, as well as lower odds of cigarette smoking, alcohol consumption, and illicit drug use. So not only people reporting feeling better, but studies showing lowering the odds of heart disease and depression. So clinical diagnosis, we're seeing an impact in there as well. And then they looked further at that list of questions. What had the kind of greatest risk reduction? So feeling that the family stood by them during difficult times, 40% reduced risk of having been a cigarette smoker. From their family, they're feeling like their family stood by them. People who reported feeling safe and protected by an adult in their home, they had a 45% reduction in risk of cigarette smoking as well. So they're also linking it towards direct behaviors in there, kind of looking at those different ones as well. So through multiple research articles, reports, all examining it, they've kind of found that the absence of positive childhood experiences results in more dramatic negative shifts in adults than the presence of ACEs. And I'll say that one more time. The absence of PCEs results in more dramatic negative shift in adult health than the presence of ACEs. And this may be that PCEs equip us to handle stress in a healthy way by disrupting that toxic stress cycle brought on by ACEs, as well as supporting the body's ability to manage regular life stressors, regardless of ACE scores. But what does this fact mean for you in your personal life or even in your work with families or children? What could this mean for you all in your work? Anike?
All right, I'm currently driving. I think it's interesting because at first when I first heard they were getting rid of ACEs, I was a bit skeptical because I thought it was going to make like certain populations go under the radar. But it's interesting the note that you just mentioned with the presence of ACEs of PCEs has a stronger impact than on negative experiences than ACEs. I am still curious, like, are ACEs completely going away or are they still keeping them? And if they are going away, do you think it's gonna make certain populations go under the radar?
Yeah, and I think you raised a really great point. And whenever we talk about them, we talk about them in bounds, right? Because for so long we've been only really focusing on ACEs to the detriment we're missing something that has a bigger impact. Not that we want to ignore this piece that is setting people up on a cascade to begin with. We always want to prevent them whenever possible. But knowing about PCEs gives us a lot of hope because regardless of what adversity you faced, you can have a great outcome and things like that. But it doesn't mean we want people to have to go through that just to, to come on the other side, right? We want to remove obstacles whenever possible. But there's a lot that we can do, whether we come into contact with families after, long after interrupting it or before those adversities. But you are certainly correct. We never want to omit data. Um, that could lead us to systems change and otherwise, that we don't have to subject families to having their parents be incarcerated because of all of these archaic things and racist structures and other things like that. We never want to ignore that part or not look into that part. But we just want a lot of family serving providers to know there's so much we could be doing because it's not everyone's job to go after those systems or to have all of those risks to address them. But this is something that everyone can do no matter what role they have to help better children as well. So you're absolutely right. It's not an either or, it's a both and. But thank you for raising that point as well. And so for us, it means there's always something that we can do and build on. And it is a universal approach. And when we talk about kind of what we want to see for families or families that are thriving, we're seeing these things. And so it's kind of a little bit more solution based in there and for systems that we want to see. And so having some of that research about positive childhood experiences, and sometimes we see some amazing programs that have come out of it. One of my favorite documentaries of all times is about a high school step team. I think they were called like Young Gentlemen of something. And it was really just a mentor group where they came together, they held each other accountable, they supported each other up. I'm like, this is the best youth program packaged in a step team with goals. This is better than most family resource centers or other things. I'm like, this was so amazing how they packaged it and then threw in all the other parts of it that were really holistic. But it can look like many things. And I think that really speaks to this framework and our approach to working with families and building people up. And so these building blocks were developed by Dr. Segi and Dr. Charlene Harper Brown. Dr. Charlene Harper Brown, if you're familiar with the Strengthening Families Protective Factors, she was also really seminal in there. She keynoted for our conference a couple years ago, and she is also from Georgia and worked at Georgia State for a while. So we like to kind of act like we have roots with her because she's done some really amazing work in the strength-based realm. And so they looked at a lot of programs that were successful in helping children not only overcome barriers, but resilient, not just despite things, but also because of the other things going on. And they came up with these 4 building blocks. So a framework is not an exact implementation. It is kind of strategies that we want to make sure are present within family engagement scenarios. And so this is what they have come up with. And if you're familiar with the protective factors, I consider the protective factors to be a little bit more at the individual level. The protective factors being social connections, concrete supports, knowledge of child development, social and emotional competence, and parental resilience. I consider those to be a little bit more at the individual level, whereas I see the hope building blocks to be a little bit more at the community and even a little bit society level. And I think both could do a better job addressing systemic issues that we see going on. So that's kind of my Venn diagram for them. So the hope building blocks, the first one is relationships. So this is also, it kind of spans a lot of things, promoting early attachment from even newborns and babies, that first kind of caregiver or primary caregiver or really dependable ones in there. And this helps children grow up and kind of navigate their peer relationships that then become really important to them, and even those romantic relationships as well. So individuals that recall having certain types of relationships in childhood experience significantly lower rates of depression and poor mental health during adulthood. So these relationships I'm talking about are really those foundational ones with caregivers, parents who respond to child's needs and offer warm, responsive reactions. Adults outside of the family who take a genuine interest in the child and support their growth and development. And also healthy, close, and positive peer relationships. And so it takes a village, and the larger the village, the more opportunities a child has for connection and support, kind of like the example Candace gave us. And also, it is really important for caregivers to have positive relationships and social connections as well with other adults. Several studies have shown that parents with social support are more likely to have positive perceptions of their children and responsiveness to their children, right? When an adult is supported and they have their own support network, they're better able to support others. When your cup is full, you're better able to pour from it for others as well. Versus caregivers who had lower social connections or reporting lower that, they had increased anxiety, depression, and reported higher angers with their children and frustration as well. And so here are some things. We don't have a huge amount of time, but I am going to give you toolkits and otherwise to dig deeper into these. So we're just going to do a little taste of each of them today. For environments, this is the second building block, so that children need safe, stable, and equitable places to live, learn, and play. And, never now more than ever to push for that and continue that whenever possible, and what that looks like and means for many people. So even as an easy anecdote, just having playgrounds in the community, children who are exposed to many things. We know that the safest neighborhoods, they don't always have the most law enforcement. They have the most resources. They have the most access and the most equity. And those are the most safe and stable neighborhoods that we know of. So better resourcing neighborhoods and how we can do that as well. Environment also just means like a welcoming culture as well. So did you feel that sense of belonging at your school? How can we make families coming to community systems, coming to school, coming to other places, feel that sense of belonging that makes them want to keep coming back? Can anyone give me an example of a group that you're part of that you instantly felt that welcoming and sense of belonging? What made you feel that way? Like, oh, I belong here. I want to come back here. I matter here.
It's me again, you guys. So I just want to brag a little bit on Marietta City Schools. I'm a huge fan of the way, well, not even Marietta City, but just Lockheed in general. The principal, she partners with a lot of vendors and just a lot of community members that provide a lot of things for kids. Like, so the kids they've gotten shoes, they've gotten book bags, they've gotten t-shirts. And I really, when I went to the first open house, at this point, it's almost 2 years ago because my daughter's going in second grade. I was amazed with the amount of, um, vendors that they had out there. Nobody was asking for any money. They had Boys and Girls Club out there. They had Marietta Powell. And I mean, I felt like this was going to be a good choice for her in terms of like the school. And the more that I got involved, it validated that choice that we made to go to this school because there were just always so many opportunities for the parents to be involved. And I am a self-proclaimed helicopter mom, and that's okay. But it's like the school they just provide so many different opportunities to be involved with the school and have that collaborative relationship with the school. And they also provide childcare when they have things like, inviting the parents to come for the triple P thing that we had last year, inviting the parents to come for, seminars like raising highly capable kids. I know I'm kind of winded, but I felt like that was the environment for me.
Yeah, right. My son's pre-K, which is also his daycare, we have an orientation without children, but there's no child care provider. I'm like, well, that's very hard when you're my main child care. So we're gonna finagle it, but I know they also want to be present there and have some time for the teachers to engage. But hearing just the collaborative experience and how they lift up parent voice and include everyone, that also makes a huge sense that you feel like you matter, that you belong. When people are listening to you, you feel heard, you feel validated. There is space for you to contribute and get that kind of back and forth synergy. So hearing all that is great. Thank you for that example. Environments, they're not always that direct intervention. As I said, sometimes it's just that space that we can create. And I also want to say that systems and policies can promote or hinder a caregiver's ability to nurture and create safe, stable environments for their kids. So always looking at those systems and policies as well, kind of all the way up. Engagement. So this one kind of clues in a little bit. Some of these tie together. So as you're talking about the environment you're creating, sometimes that includes how we're engaging with families, how we're engaging with youth and kids in there. And so we all need to develop that sense of mattering so that we matter to other people and to our communities. And that creates a big sense of belonging. And that was a quote from Dr. Brene Brown in there. And so creating that engagement so that volunteers can be in there, that youth, that adults can feel connected in those ways. There's a great documentary on Netflix called like Nobody Bowls Anymore. And it was talking about the social isolation we're going through, that it used to be many people were included in bowling leagues or something similar to that. There were lots of big groups and clubs. And I know in my parents' house, there's this huge picture of a group that my grandparents were part of from being in service World War II, that they would all get together for these banquets and stay in touch. Then they had all of these leagues and other things. So how they built community, we don't see it in the same ways now. So we need to foster that and grow those things. And it helps people find more commonness than differences when we can know each other and know our intentions and better receive other perspectives and lived experiences as well that we can do within those communities, rather than being more polarizing. So not just having that sense of belonging, but understanding each other's experiences as humans and being open to that as well. And lastly, emotional growth. So this is kind of that social and emotional intelligence. And children need to have lots of opportunities to develop that sense of awareness, social cognition, learning how to self-regulate emotions, behaviors, acquire those skills. And I always say that I feel like I, as an adult, are also always learning how to better my social and emotional intelligence and resilience as well, especially having young kids. I thought I was patient and resilient, and I'm learning that I have a lot to grow when it comes to being patient, resilient, and to how to respond to someone going through crisis or emotions, or even a baby going through a tantrum. And all those things matter. So I think this is a lifelong learning experience, but having those foundational roots as a child as well. And so I talked a little bit about those strengthening families protective factors up there on the screen. So I like to think of it as those hope building blocks are kind of like what we're building with, and those protective factors are kind of like the individual tools, as another metaphor to use if you kind of go through both of those frameworks. And so when we're talking about the 4 building blocks and how they can be utilized, looking at organizations' policies, procedures, kind of workflows when someone walks in the door, how are they greeted, or how do we create that sense of belonging? What are our opportunities for engagement? What is our place in the bigger system, or even us as individuals? How can we be that for a child in our network or in our reach? How can we be that person as well for them? So we'll have more of these in the toolkit. So this was really a preview of the framework. We dug deep into some of the newer research that a lot of people aren't as familiar with, but I wanted to leave the last little bit of time to go over the toolkit, because that is where we're going to go deeper. And I also want to point out the HOPE website, where you can find and just do a deep dive into a wormhole. So now that you've had a little taste, if you want to go back and discover more, I will encourage you to do that. So I believe you're still able to see my screen. This is our getting ready. Let me copy this link address. So here is the social media for Hope toolkit. So this isn't released yet. It is new for you all as a taste, and we'll give you the rest when it comes out. Let me get out of my presentation really quick so I can show you. Okay. So in the chat box, I put the link to this. So this has really easy content. And this lets you know there's 5 slides for that post. This is kind of post number 1. So when you are looking at what is in Dropbox, you'll see this Word document, and then you'll see all of the posts that are labeled. Okay. So you'll see this is 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. So anything that starts with 1 is going to be that first post, and then you'll see 2.1, 2.2. A lot of these are made as carousels. That's kind of what is in right now for social media, is those carousels that people scroll through. So we have them kind of numbered, ordered, and in sets for you. And this will let you know this is all post 1. So anything that is 1, 1.1, 1.2 is going to be for that one. So it goes through a lot of them. It gives you just the basics. What are ACEs? What are PCEs? What is HOPE? How do we merge them together? You might know about adverse experiences, but what do you know about positive ones? So this is kind of is a little longer. It's a little bit more educational than some of our other really quick ones, like what we did for Child Abuse Prevention Month. We had some really quick ones. These are a little bit more deeper and educational in that realm. We encourage you to use these in your platforms. If you work with organizations, share it with there too, especially once we launch the full one, but we wanted to give you a tidbit. Just today as a preview as our special guests. We always welcome any feedback. If you go through these so thoroughly, I don't know what your time is, but if you just ever see a need for more or someone with coming with fresh eyes, please let us know, especially if you take the time to look at them and you have a thought. We would love to have it. We have a slew of talking points that make it quick and easy to discuss it. We have a couple quick videos. We have 3 videos that are each about 2.5 to 3 minutes that dive into just what they are there, what the research, and then what we can do to support families, lots of citations and some basic things like that. And so this is a toolkit that we are going to be working and growing as well. We also have the HOPE presentation, and I did an abridged version today. It goes in depth and it has a script. We offer a training of the trainer on that. So if anyone wants to become a trained facilitator and deliver that, if it makes sense for your community, just let us know. But if you're also signed up for our newsletters, we release that there. But just know this is one that we do release the materials so that others can deliver it if you have a need to deliver it in your community or just want access to it to have that knowledge. We're happy to do that as well for you all as our ambassadors. Yeah, I think that would be great for foster and adoptive parents, especially. That would be a great one. Any questions about HOPE or about expectations? We hope we can see you at the conference. We'll be sending out some information soon about wrapping up in August. Okay. And I know it's 8 o'clock and we've had a long day. Angela had just gotten home. She hasn't had a chance to relax, and we feel that. So I don't want to keep you guys either, but just know we really appreciate you all here and you're contributing to this. And we hope you're able to share this out, especially once we get you all the materials. And thank you, Shelley. We're looking forward to having you there.
Thank you, Jill.